Hi everyone, I'm Martin Dessart and I'm going to present part of my research as a postdoctoral associate in the Vinauger lab at Virginia Tech. So our world is uncertain, right? It's unpredictable and we constantly have to adapt to new conditions. And the masters of adaptations are mosquitoes that show remarkable behavioral plasticity. For instance, a local mosquito can now feed on this new invasive Burmese python in Florida, and they can also feed on ornamental flowers that don't even exist in the native range. In Benin, the biting time of Anopheles funestus has shifted toward early morning after coverage of insecticidal nets, making mosquitoes basically become more active right when humans are getting out of the protections. So this activity pattern is quite robust, and for example in Aedes aegypti, you can see in light-dark conditions two peaks of activity, one in the early morning and one in the late afternoon. But even in constant darkness, so without any external cues, you can still see a pattern of activity. And why? Because mosquitoes possess an endogenous clock, and since the world is rhythmic, cyclic, this clock enables them to anticipate predictable events. So this clock is shaped by Zeitgeber, literally time givers, such as temperature, light, odors, and together they help modulating mosquito rhythms, sensorial and cognitive ability. So it's crucial to understand the system, how global change, for example, is affecting the system in order to inform vector control strategies. So in this project, we are exploring the limits of mosquitoes' ability to synchronize to Zeitgeber, and I am lucky to work with 4 talented students in the Vinauger lab that I would like to acknowledge here. So how to jet lag a mosquito? First, we monitor the activity by placing individual females in tubes in this actometer, and these infrared beams will count the activity. Then, after a few days of light-dark, we introduce a time shift, and then after a recovery period, we look at the activity in constant condition with no external cue. So we measure first the peak timing in constant darkness and compare with the control to see how much the activity pattern of mosquitoes has been really shifted. Then we measure the peak timing from the last light off, the distance between the last light off and the peak timing here, to see how much the clocks are now synchronized with the new shift cycle. We also look at the free running period in constant darkness and the proportion of rhythmicity. And we compare different shift modalities. So first, for the -6 hour shift, we compare the synchronization duration of 1 day here versus 4 days here, with 4 days recovery group to account for individual age. And as you can see, the 3 groups tends to be shift to 1 -6 hour, but surprisingly the 3 groups are synchronized with the new pattern. So we tested now if the shift happened during the night, and if after the shift there is no recovery but individual goes straight into darkness. And here again we found that mosquito could be shift and synchronized surprisingly, even if the data is a little bit more spread. So it means that for the red group, after a day of only 6 hour light pulse, the next day the clocks are already synced with the new pattern. So we did the 3 groups with +6 hours, so +6 hours during the night and with no recovery. And here again mosquito were shift towards +6 hours, and here again surprisingly they are also synced with the new cycle. So for all of these groups, the free running period was around 22 hours, surprisingly not impacted whatsoever by the shift, and most individuals here and here show rhythmicity, all except the 2 groups in yellow that experience a -6 or +6 hour shift but went into constant light, and these 2 groups show no rhythmicity. So our main result is that Aedes aegypti adjusts very quickly to phase shift in both directions, and it's surprising and it's faster than other insects such as flies or kissing bug, and they also resynchronize more easily after a delay an advance than a delay, which is the opposite in mammals, and that have longer free running periods. And this has practical implications for laboring, where light cycles are often shifted to accommodate experiments. Not shown here, but we also applied a series of short pulses, light pulses, and we found that 1 hour pulse was sufficient to disrupt the clock. And we saw that adapting to night shift was more difficult than day shift, and both of these results have implications for urban or semi-urban species like Aedes aegypti and could inform strategies to prevent mosquitoes from biting. So before my future self take any question, I'd like to thank my collaborators, funding, and other members of the Vinauger and Lawander lab, and you for your attention.